This is Stone Cold Export, and it's been a while since my previous upload. I've been very busy during the fall and most of the winter. I'm working on a master's degree, and between that and work, I haven't really had a lot of time to do anything else. And on top of that, there hasn't really been much to do because GPUs are still crazy expensive and not in stock, so I probably won't be looking at any of the mid to high-end GPUs anytime soon. Intel launched Alder Lake and looked pretty good, but I haven't really had time to test it or even buy it. So yeah, I'm considering testing the 12400, but it's a bit difficult because currently the only motherboards that are available are the C690 boards, and the cheapest C690 boards costs the same as the 12400 CPU, and that doesn't really make sense to me. You shouldn't really spend more or as much on the motherboard as the CPU, in my opinion, at least not if you want the most performance available. So I'm kind of holding off until the B series and H series motherboards launch in my country, which hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I might check out Alder Lake when that happens, but not before. As you probably can tell, we are in PC Building Simulator, which I have barely played. I played a bit. You can see I'm level 2. I have the performance metrics on screen as well for those that are curious. The machine here is running the i5 11400 with 32 gigabytes of memory. However, that's 4 sticks of memory, and for some reason the 11400 doesn't really like playing with those 4 sticks. It worked in the past, but it doesn't work anymore. So well, it works, but it's running at 2133 megahertz, and I've tried to tune it manually because the sticks are the XMP profile is 3600, and I've tried to run 3200, 34, 6600, 29, 33. Doesn't matter, it will not boot. You just get a post error. So yeah, it's running 2133, slow memory. The GPU, that's the AMD RX 6800, which is basically idling now. You can see it's using 68 watts, 27%, 28%. I am running at 1080p, so that's probably part of the reason. Yeah, right. So this game is actually one of the few places that you can get GPUs for for decent prices. Well, you can't really get them though; they're of course virtual. But I figured we'd just play a bit and talk a bit about the current situation and what I'm doing moving forward. And I would like to hear what you are planning on doing moving forward as well, because it doesn't really look like the GPUs will get cheaper anytime soon. But we can talk about some of the announcements made at CES and some of the rumors that are circling around. So we can start off with the worst bit of news, which in my opinion was the 3090 Ti from Nvidia. That was I don't think it has launched yet, and I can't remember seeing an MSRP, but it just seemed like a weird time to launch a new GPU when you, well, not one, two actually, because there's also the 3080 12 gig, which also doesn't make any sense. Now you have the 3080 10 gig, you have the 3080 12 gig, and you have the 3080 Ti, which I believe has 16 gigs, or is that wrong? I can't remember. In any case, it just seems a bit weird because the 3080 and the 3080 Ti, they were pretty close to each other, and now they have shoehorned a GPU in between those two. That's a bit strange to me. Anyway, this person here wants a better computer. He needs 32 gigs of RAM. I think I have ordered that. I can't even remember. Right. This PC is not suitable. At least one HyperX part. Get me a terabyte. Sure. G.Skill 32 gigs. I seriously should have figured out what I was doing before I started this, before I started recording. But anyway, so Dylan, that's this computer. Okay. Remove. No, of course. Open memory clip. Open memory. Now we can remove. There we go. So usually I wouldn't. Not really good practice installing one memory stick in a system that probably supports 4 memory channels, but yeah, sure, it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, the current situation has kind of, well, had a negative effect on my motivation for PC building and tech, because you can't get almost anything. So the Alder Lake launched with DDR5, so now you can get DDR5 motherboards and you can use DDR5 with the Alder Lake CPUs. The problem is you can't get DDR5, so that's also not in stock. It's sold out everywhere. So even if like I said, I want to check out Alder Lake when the cheaper motherboard launch, but I'm not going to do that with DDR5, just so we're clear, because again, DDR5 costs more than the 12400, and it doesn't make any sense spending more on memory than on the CPU unless you're doing something very specific that requires a large amount of memory. But for gaming, that doesn't make any sense to me. 32 gigs is probably the sweet spot these days, but you can still get away with 16, and if you are buying DDR5, that will cost more than the roughly 200 USD that the 12400 does. So yeah, I will not be using DDR5, just so you are aware of that when I look at Alder Lake. If I look at Alder Lake, it's still not completely sure. Okay, this thing is okay. Let's install the side panel. Oops, my bad. Pressed escape. Put it on the shelf, and in my case, so it might be time to run Byteback. Oh, right. Forgot about that. Anyway, have you guys been able to get any GPUs lately? I mean, I see them in stock every now and then, but the prices are just so expensive. Doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, so at CES, AMD launched the RX 6500 XT. I assume you guys saw that. And that was an interesting launch. So the 6500 XT, that's 4 gigs of memory. 4 gigs of memory for 200 USD. If that sounds familiar, maybe you are thinking of Polaris, like I was when I heard that. Problem is though, I honestly think that this GPU will probably be about the same performance-wise as the some of the Polaris GPUs. I hope that it performs better. I mean, it should be like a Vega 56, but let's face it, that's not going to happen. Probably won't be as fast as Vega 56, and it won't be as fast as the GTX 1070. I'm pretty sure that is the case. Also, they had so the 6600 XT that I have already done a review of a 6600 XT. On that card, it only used 8 lanes, but apparently the 6500 XT is going to use 4 lanes. So okay, so 4 lanes of PCIe 4.0, that's probably okay, should be fine. But maybe you saw the hardware unboxed video, which I also have seen, of course. If you haven't seen it, maybe you should go check it out. and they did some experimentation with the PCIe 3.0 and 3.0 by 4 on the 5500 XT, and found that it could have a negative effect on the performance, which will probably be the case with this new GPU as well. And that kind of sucks, because if you have an old GPU and you're going to upgrade, maybe your system is also based on PCIe 3.0, because unless it's a Ryzen 3000 system on a 500 series motherboard, or 5000 series CPU on a 500 series motherboard, you will probably not have PCIe 4.0, and also of course some of the Rocket Lake stuff. But if you have a couple of years old, if you have a PC that are a few years old, then you probably do not have PCIe 4.0. I mean, even so, you might not want to upgrade to the 6500 XT, because I do want to test one. Just to be clear, I will try to get one when it launches, even though the prices will probably be insane, and I'm sure it's gonna cost like twice the MSRP or something crazy like that. But I will try to get one, just so we can test it, because I am quite curious how fast is this thing going to be. Probably won't do much PCIe testing, because other folks will do all that testing, and that's quite time consuming, and because I don't really have a lot of time these days, I have to leave that up for others to test. But I do want to test one, just to see how much better it is than let's say the 1070. Well, it's not going to be better than 1070 now, is it? But yeah, just to see how well it performs, or how poorly. 4 gigs of memory doesn't seem it seems a bit low in 2022. I'm sure they only did that because, you know, you can't mine Ethereum on a GPU with less than 4 gigs of memory. So they probably won't be used by miners. And you know, they can. It also had, I can't remember the specs, but the memory bandwidth was also pretty low. And you know, they argue that the Infinity Cache is going to make up for that. However, I'm skeptical of that, really. I'm not sure that the Infinity Cache is going to make up for it, because it had like what, 16 megabytes of Infinity Cache. Yeah, I don't think that's going to save it, but maybe I'm wrong. And of course, they also made note that it had ray tracing accelerators or something like that in the CES announcement. And well, I mean, you and I both know this card is not going to be good at ray tracing. You will not be able to do ray tracing with this card. They might as well not have the ray tracing accelerators there, because you will not be able to play any games at 1080p with ray tracing on, with decent frame rate. If you like slideshows, then sure, you'll be fine. But you highly doubt that you will be able to play any ray tracing games. And you can say, oh, well, you can use FSR. Well, you can, but the thing is, I like FSR, because you know, you can use it on. I have used it on the 1070, and you know, there's no restrictions. You can use it on pretty much anything. But the problem is image quality. It's not all that great. Ultra quality, FSR ultra quality that's good. I have no problem using that. That's fine. Quality depends. If you have a high resolution display, sure. If you are running 1080p FSR quality, it's not good enough for me. It looks a bit blurry to me, anyway. Maybe your experience is a bit different. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it looks a bit blurry. So don't like that. Let's just complete it, collect. And he's happy. Of course he's happy. Just got a fixed computer with 32 gigs of memory. You should be happy. Alright, required by January 12, 1 terabyte. I do not think that has arrived yet. Let's check the calendar. Oh, it should have arrived. Hang on. One moment. Ira. Okay, that's completed. Good, good. Okay, let's change the day. Yeah, it's also a guy who wanted a new GPU. And, you know, 970 should be good enough, right? A bit old these days. I actually will have a video on GTX 970. Well, I'm not going to say when because who knows, but sometime in the next month or something. And I figured I'd try to compare it to the R9 290 in 2022 just to see how they stack up these days. Anyway, we were talking about the 6500 XT. I do not have high hopes for that GPU. Apparently there's also a 6400 coming. That will be even worse. I'm guessing like 470, 460, RX 460 level. Can't be that bad. Can't be. 470, RX 470. Maybe. We'll see. In any case, Nvidia is also launching a new GPU. And apparently this new GPU is the RTX 3050. I believe it had 8 GB of memory. And in the CES, it's a bit funny, in the CES presentation or keynote, they showed a graph where they compared it to the previous 50 series cards, which of course are all GTX cards, so no ray tracing accelerators on those. And they compared the ray tracing performance of the RTX 3050 to the previous 50 series, and of course the RTX 3050 was a lot faster, but it was also using DLSS, so the RTX 3050 will be dependent on DLSS to achieve 60 frames per second ray tracing at 1080p. I do believe that this will be a better card than the 6500 XT, personally. I do really believe that, because I haven't, I could be wrong here, but I haven't seen anything, any talk about, I haven't seen any talk about NVIDIA hampering the PCI lanes on that card. And frankly, DLSS actually works better than FSR in my opinion. I mean, FSR is great, no hate here, but overall I think DLSS, because you can use DLSS balanced and it looks pretty good these days. So I do think that NVIDIA's DLSS tech actually is pretty good. Let's see. Add or remove. I can't remember what we were doing. Mugshot CC. Okay. So I can't remember the release date of the 3050, but I don't think I think it was this month. And of course, I will try to get my hands on one of those as well. I actually, you know, if I had to choose between the 3050 and the 6500 XT, I would choose the 3050 for two reasons. Number one, I think it will be a better card. That 8 gigs of memory will probably might be a bit more tempting for miners to buy that, but. And the second reason is simply that the GeForce reviews that I have done on the RTX cards have generally done better than the AMD reviews. So the 6800 reviews didn't do very well, and the 6600 XT review also didn't do very well. The 5700 XT reviews, those did pretty good, because there was a lot of hype behind those cards and stuff. But the others didn't do very well. However, the RTX reviews that I've done have done very well, so thank you all for watching those if you have. If not, go and watch it now, or not. It's up to you. Alright, we have installed Mugshot CC. Let's remove the bullet run software. Don't need that now. Restart now. Yes. Yeah. So I think Nvidia have done some pretty shady stuff, you know, with the 30 series, just because they have now the 3050, the 3060, the 3060 Ti, the 3070, the 3070 Ti, and apparently there's a 3070 Ti 16 gig card coming as well. Then you have the RTX 3080 10 gig, then the 3080 12 gig, then you have the 3080 Ti, which I believe is 16 gig, then you have the RTX 3090, and then you have the 3090 Ti. So it's only a matter of time before the 3050 also gets a Ti model, I'm sure. And I'm not sure how they are able to squeeze all these SKUs together, because the performance between them is they're so small. I mean, when the 3080 and the 3090 first launched, I didn't really see why anyone would buy the 3090 if you're just gaming. The 3080 was plenty powerful enough, and the 3090 was a bit faster, but it also was a lot more expensive with a lot more memory, so that's probably good for a couple of tasks. But for general gaming, the 3080 is plenty. It should be plenty for most people. Then they had the 380 Ti, and then I really didn't see the point of the 390. 380 Ti had plenty of memory, but even that was only slightly faster than the 380. So it's just a mess, you know. It's just so messy. And I'm not sure what word to use, but when the 4000 series will be announced and will launch, which might happen not next year, but next fall, so in the fall. I'm a bit scared to see where the prices are going, because it just seems that the MSRP of the 3080 12 gig was a lot more than the 3080, and of course you know that was only because they could, because they know they would sell. They could put a 2000 USD MSRP on those cards, and they would still sell. People should buy them. But so I guess when the 4000 series launched, the 4080 will probably be like 1500 USD, and the 4070 will be 1000 USD. Maybe not that much, but I don't like the way things are. I don't like where we are heading. Everything's getting more expensive. It's getting tougher and tougher to build a decent gaming PC. In the past, you could build a decent gaming PC for 1000 USD. It's no problem. You put a Polaris card in the PC and a Ryzen, and you're good. You're fine for 1080p. Should be plenty. Might even do some 4040p. These days, can't do that. First problem is, of course, you can't really get a GPU for less than $1,000. Let's just check if I have done everything here. Okay. Yeah, so when the Polaris cards were around, you could get one for pretty cheap prices, at least in the past. Let's just collect. He's happy. Good. And now you can't. I mean, you know, Ryzen 5 1600, get a 570, 580, something like that, and you were good for 1080p at least. But then things took a turn for the worse. So you had the RX 5500 XT, and that wasn't really any faster than the RX 580 or 590. It's basically the same performance. Now we have the 6500 XT, which will probably be same story again, just a slight bump over the 5500 XT. They added ray tracing, not really, but they did. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of miss the days where you could actually build a good computer for less than 1000 USD. You can't do that anymore. You can get a good CPU, the Alder Lake 12400, or even the 10400 or 11400. Those are all excellent value CPUs. The Ryzen R5 3600, if you can get one really cheap, do that. But the 11400, 10400 and 12400, they will all be faster, because it's getting a, well, it's not old, but it has a few years on it now, so it's not as impressive as it was when it launched. The 5600X, the CPU, that's also good, but it's way too expensive. 300 USD? No way, no way. And it's not a 5600 non-X, so you can't really go Ryzen anymore if you are on a strict budget, or if you want to spend less than 200 USD on a CPU. If you want to spend less than 200 USD on a CPU, you have to go Intel. There's no point in going AMD at this moment. I honestly believe that, because the 12400 is plenty good enough. Plenty good enough. And that's also the case for the 11400 and the 10400. And you can get a decent board for those CPUs now, and hopefully very soon you can get a decent board for 12400. And really, that's the way to go if you're on a tight budget. But then, what GPU are you going to buy? Can't really buy a GPU. So you have to look on the used market and hope you get something that still has a couple of years left, which may or may not be the case. Usually the fans go first. Fans go, then the GPU follows, because it overheats. Maybe. Could do at least. Alright, sorry, I'm rambling. Yeah, I miss the old days. Right now, if I was getting into gaming, I'd just buy a console. But wait, you can't buy a console. You can't buy a PS5. You can't buy a Series X. You can buy a Series S, and then just live with the somewhat worse performance, the 1080p gaming. So you can buy a Series S, but I don't really think the Series S, not that, I mean, here it costs, it's the same price as the One X was, but the One X was faster. Well, is faster. That's weird to me. Anyway, hopefully we can get some consoles for cheap soon. Personally, I'd rather do that than go chase after these incredibly expensive GPUs. And yeah, I really hope GPUs will become cheaper soon, and I am excited to check out the budget options from Nvidia and AMD. Hopefully I will get to test both. I will do my best, but I will of course prioritize the 3050. And I really hope that you are that you already have a decent GPU, because you won't be able to get a new one. If you don't have a decent CPU, you have plenty of choices. Well, one choice if you're spending less than 200 USD on the CPU. Right, sorry, I'm rambling now. I will shut up and end the video, because I basically said all I wanted to say. Thank you for watching or listening, or both, and I'll see you soon. I promise. I'll get some benchmarks out there. I'll do my best. Goodbye.